Hi, I'm Fire here on my second channel, and today I'm going to show you how I made this present balloon from the Animal Crossing game series. So starting it, I began, as always, by looking up some inspiration photos. I decided to go with the standard design with a red balloon, mostly because I think the red with the balloon and the present, I don't know, they really look good together. My first step in making this was painting this gift box that I got for Christmas a solid white. I actually started this part a couple months ago, and then I forgot about it, oops. So this clip is basically just me touching up the painted box because it's been sitting in my cabinet for a while and started chipping. After touch-ups, I took the box outside and sprayed it with some sealant and let it sit for about 2 hours. Once it was dry, I used a ruler to measure out the center of the box lid. After marking it lightly with my pencil, I went in with a drill and made a small hole. Next, I took some white pipe cleaner and threaded it through the hole, knotting it on the inside so it couldn't be pulled through. My idea here was basically to have the pipe cleaner be like the string that is hanging between the balloon and the present. With the pipe cleaner in place, I took some red ribbon and very slowly tied a ribbon around the box, using the pipe cleaner as my focal point. I'd never actually tied a present bow before, so shout out to this lady for teaching me how. But look at how nice it turned out! Ooh! Once I had the ribbon where I wanted it, I dipped my paintbrush in some white glue and placed it at a few key places around the box, just to make sure the ribbon would stay in place. With the present out of the way, the next step was making the balloon. Of course, the best way to make a fake balloon is to start with a real balloon. Thankfully, I had a few spares left over for my birthday stream. I wanted my balloon to be just a little bit bigger than my present, so I blew it up and slowly adjusted it as I went by comparing it to my present. Once it was about the size I wanted, it was time to start paper mache. I didn't have any newspaper, so I decided to use lined paper and began by cutting it into even strips. Next step was to make my mixture, which wikihow told me was 2 parts glue to 1 part water. Honestly, I just kind of eyeballed it, but I had paper mache like once before this, and it looked about right to me, so I figured it was fine. After my mixture was finished, I dipped each paper strip in the bowl, taking time to pull off the extra liquid with my fingers. Then I carefully placed the strip across the balloon and moved on to the next one. This was definitely the trickiest part of this whole project, as I discovered that wet lined paper was prone to tearing, and I had to be really gentle to apply them evenly to the balloon. The end result definitely wasn't flat or even, but it was covered, and that was good enough for me. I let the balloon dry for about a day, which gave time for the paper mache to solidify into a sort of hard shell around the balloon. Once it felt solid, I began painting, basically just pouring acrylic paint directly on the balloon and using a flat brush to spread it around. Because I was dumb and didn't use primer, it took about 3 layers of paint to finally get the balloon and lined paper totally covered. But I got there eventually, and again, that's all that matters. Once the paint was completely dry, it was time to start the hardest part, which was deflating the balloon.
This is the part I'm scared of. Okay.
Using an X-Acto knife, I cut a tiny hole just above the knot in the balloon, where I bore witness to the scariest sounds known to man and crafters alike. But in spite of my fear, the balloon didn't pop and the shell stayed intact, which meant it was time to move on to the next step. Using the lip of the real balloon as reference, I measured out and then painted a fake one, which I glued to my balloon shell. When it was dry, it was time for the final step, putting it all together. But wait, you say, the video still has too much runtime for it to be over, which, haha, you would be right, because I super messed up. The moment I attached my pieces, I immediately realized the balloon was too heavy for the pipe cleaner. Attempting to save my idea, I pulled out a few more pieces of pipe cleaner to see if their combined strength would hold up the balloon, but nope, wouldn't work. So I had to switch to my backup plan. One of the things I kept from my aforementioned birthday was this cute little plastic stand that was used to display number balloons, which I had kept well after they deflated because that's what crafty people do. They just hold on to junk until it becomes useful. Needing to switch out the pipe cleaner, I began unwrapping my neatly made present. Unfortunately, the extra glue I put down came to bite me in the butt, so instead of coming up nicely, this happened. Though definitely panicking a bit, I couldn't back out now, and it was time to go into fixing mode. Bringing back our old friend the drill, I switched drill bits and made a new hole for the wider stand, threading it through and placing the base inside. The next step was fixing the chip left by the glue, so I slapped on some white paint and let it dry. Once it was finished and sealed, it was time to retie my bow, which was thankfully a lot easier the second time. With everything else in place came the moment of truth, mounting my balloon on the new stand. Unfortunately, the balloon was just a little too tall for the camera, but you can hear from my reaction how it went.
Whoa.
The new stand held. After taking some time off camera to clean up my workstation and pop out some of the dents in the balloon, it was done. I got to combine a lot of new and old skills for this project, and while it's not perfect, I'm really happy with how it turned out. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end of the video, and I'll see you maybe in the next one, whenever that is. Bye, gamers!